Hello, hello. And this is us back again. For those are there, if you're the first time listening to our podcast, and this is East, your energetic, authentic self today. I am Joy Jo.
I
I'm
am
Sheila.
Hope Yin.
And Sheila.
Hi, hello, I'm Sheila.
Thank you, sisters. This is our fourth episode of East podcast. As you have heard us, and this is Joy, Hope, and Sheila. We have been together for a long time, and we really love this podcast because this is the place we are creating a safe place for a lot of listeners just like you. So you can share your life experiences and challenges with us, and actually, a while ago, we talked about a sensitive topic about Asian community. After we published our podcast, and we got a lot of feedback, and there are a lot of encouragement, comments, we actually wanted to share with you today. And also, I wanted to remind all of you, May, the month of May, is to celebrate Asian heritage.
Awesome.
So I wanted to kick off by sharing one of my dearest colleague. We have been working together, and he saw the post, and he listened to the podcast, and he wrote a long comments to me, and I felt like, wow, this is really heartwarming. From people I really know who are not in the Asian community, but he cares deeply. And I wanted to share briefly, at the high level, what he shared with me. In the notes, he said, my indifference to recognize color, race, ethnicity made me equally complicit to the problem, especially as a member of the privileged class. In trying to do and treat others equally, only absent these differences, I would swung too far to the other way. I really think that's resonated with a lot of people from our conversation. And he also mentioned, he has always considered and treated people of all color, races, and ethnicities as equals. But so are we all different? And that's okay. And we should appreciate and recognize those differences, if anything is to ever change for the better. And he particularly talk about Asian does not really come to the mind as a first of the culture that really wanted to promote the diversity and inclusion. So at the end of his comments, and he mentioned, our discussion a while ago, that was a pleasant reminder of that simple fact, embracing the recognizing the difference and embrace the indifference as well. So he also said, I realized how much I very rarely associate this topic with the Asian community, despite it being very much the same issue. And, from this podcast and make him aware, all of us, all of you, all of them out there really appreciate our willingness to share. And he wanted to thank me. He wanted to thank us, openly talk about that. And I feel I was really excited to hear to see the comments. And I, shared it with Hope and Sheila last week, and we decided, I want you to hear this.
That is so wonderful, Joy. First of all, I do want to thank your coworker to take the time to share what's in his mind, and also for his honesty. I think a lot of us, just like we talk about how we feel in this anti-Asian hate event or momentum or movement, we don't necessarily speak up. And well, last time we did had our courage to share, I think this opened up the dialogue so that we can share what's going on in our mind, in our heart. So thank him for doing that.
So I agree. Great awareness on his part, particularly to your point, Joy, and your point, Hope. The reason why we started this podcast, right? It's to show up as our authentic selves, to create dialogue on various topics. Obviously, we chose the anti-Asian sentiment that was out there for the two of you to share your experiences, but your coworker recognizes that for individuals that say they don't see color, they don't see race, they miss an opportunity to really see us within the communities that we live in, work in, and how, whether it's, a anti-Black Lives Matter sentiment or an anti-Asian sentiment, we collectively are living, seeing those experiences, and frankly have our stories to tell, no matter how minor we may think those are compared to the greater experience of others. So once again, kudos to your coworker for sharing that with us, because that's what we want. We have this space. Let's share, let's talk about it. And I think, as I indicated in that particular podcast, when we do that, then that helps create a diversity of thought type of message for all to really embrace and step into that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we already see by using our voice, we already start getting a lot of other people to recognize this. Not only standing against all the Asian hate and necessary, I don't know even how to put the words on it. It's just very heartbroken events on a lot of things. But also what we really want in the long run is we can all see the difference and we can celebrate, accept the difference as the positive toward the growth as all human being. And I also wanted to share another story that I am in a Bible study group. I don't know who is there listening, right? Even this moment, we know you're listening, but we don't know exactly who you are at the moment. So one sister from the Bible group, and she just suddenly said, I wanted to say I appreciate Joy was sharing her opinion with her friends on the podcast about what is going on now as a lady who are as me came from China. And she said, someone knows someone out there and they know my pain and they know what I'm going through. And I feel I'm not alone anymore. Although I know a lot of people here, but listening to all these voices there, I am not alone anymore. And she said, I really appreciate you. All you ladies are doing this and keep doing that. I am so proud. And because of this, I feel proud of myself, my culture, and who I represented for. And I feel like, oh my goodness, that's the best comments I could ever imagine, on our podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, Joy. I think you're not alone. I also heard some of my friends told me something similar, to say, hey, just let you know that what you're talking about, I experienced something similar, and you are not just talking about yourself, you're talking about on our behalf. So thank you for doing that. So as you said, Joy, even though we just started to share our own experience, but I think the end result or the impact is larger than what we thought. So we do represent this model minority, quote model minority. We work hard, we don't normally speak up, but I think it is meaningful for us to all have a voice to be heard. And we also want to hear others, right? We know in the future, we're going to invite other women or other people who are women's allies to be on our podcast to share their story, and so that we can understand each other more and really to form this community, embrace our difference, but in the end is we're all humans. We have similar goals and we have similar longings. We want to work together to make this world a better place.
Well said, Hope. And as we talk about inviting folks to this space, it's, for those who have chosen to share with Joy, keep sharing. It's not that, you're invited into our space. It's not necessarily a personal invitation to join us within the podcast. The whole goal with us sharing our energetic, authentic selves today was to share that information and create a space. So whether we somehow personally invite you, send comments, emails, whatever the case may be, and we are happy to share your stories with those who choose to listen to our podcast.
Absolutely concur. So keep sending your comments to our way. That also, when we were chatting on this last week, and it also reminded me like, hey, sometime a lot of friends are really trying to like, hey, I want to make friends with you guys. And what do I need to be aware? So on that topic, I wanted to share one thing. As in the last, I don't know, more than 15 years of living in America, I think I have one repeated story that happens in my life. And I wanted to say it here so you can actually learn from it. The example I want to give is, how do you compliment people? Sometimes with the intention, you're really giving a praise to others, but it can be taken in the wrong way. For example, there are multiple scenarios in my life. People are saying like, hey, Joy, your English is so good. It says, oh, thank you. It's much better than my Chinese. And the second part, that really make me upset. And you know why? Because I worked so hard on learning English for 15 years when that person barely studied any Chinese. And every time when I say this, and there will be friends and try to comfort me, but wait, they're trying to compliment you. It's just, I know, that's actually exactly the reason I feel upset, because they have a great intention, but it can be perceived in the wrong way. And I know Sheila and Hope, you also have the similar, you have the story of the similar flavor too.
Yes, I definitely have some of that, Joy. I would say that my personal experience is it depends on when someone said that to me. For example, when I first arrived in America, when someone said, hey, our English is so good, I would be thrilled. I would be jump into the air. I was so happy because I want to have some of those external validation, right? But if someone tells me right now, after 20 plus years here, if someone tells me, hey, your English is so good, then I may think, okay, did you detect my accent? Did I use the wrong grammar? So it's definitely my feeling toward that compliment is changing. So I think maybe for other people, when they try to compliment, just be mindful whether the recipient whether it's something that they want to hear or not. I don't know the answer to that, but just something to be mindful about.
So agreed, and it can create confusion, right? So for me, as a Black woman, originally from the United States, grew up in the Midwest, I remember traveling to St. Louis and going into, I was there for business, going into, local, gas station to grab a bottle of water, and was just talking to the clerk, who actually happened to be a Black man. And we're talking, and he asked me, he said, so you must be a teacher. I said, no, I'm not. And he said, oh, what do you do? And I said, I'm an HR professional. And he said, oh, really? Well, you sound so proper. And I thought, I was confused. I thought, well, what does that mean? So I just walked away. I was like, oh, well, thank you, but walked away thinking, I'm not sure what his intent was with that. And being, fully transparent, I have encountered throughout my lifetime comments on the way I sound, perhaps someone looking to fit me into a norm and or stereotype as to how a Black woman should sound, is expected to sound. And it becomes one of those kind of confusion and, I'll say, for lack of better wording, those really type of moments from that standpoint. So we all have our experiences where it can be confusing, upsetting when individuals comment on the way we sound.
I know that, it must be hard to be in the middle of the scenario. I think what we're trying to convey here is we're not trying to be grumpy or anything. We are actually, sharing the stories has a common theme. When we are complimenting and be sensible about our own judgment, right? It's actually, we appreciate all the compliments you're sending to others, but make sure you're really complimenting by, oh, your English is really good, you use a great word, and I welcome that, but don't compare my English to your Chinese, which you spend 2 hours learning words. And same thing, not exactly the same as Sheila and Hope's situation, but as coaches, we often coach people on their judgment. They make people do a lot of judgments without aware of that, and make sure we are conscious about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There
I
is
think
awareness.
Yeah, I think what we touched upon is unconscious, right? It's they have a good heart, but maybe not conscious about what that may impact the other person. And the other thing would be we stereotype, and we all have unconscious bias. As long as we have a brain, we have unconscious bias. And our job every day is to try to realize what is my unconscious bias and try to reduce that or eliminate that.
That's well said. Hope.
Well said.
And now the takeaway from this session is for our existing friends, our new friends up there, and be aware of potential judgment that you don't know yet. When you're we encourage you to recognize the difference among all of us. And we also encourage you to fully embrace the differences we each bring in. That's maybe the core of the inclusion and diversity. And let us know what you think. Again, we're very excited that we got to talk to you today. Remember, this is Y.E.A.S.T, your energetic, authentic self today. This is Joy.
This is the Hope.
This is Sheila.
We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.